I mean, every time I've heard preachers, and God love them, I understand walking through the Red Sea is like a picture of baptism. I get that. But this was so much more than that. God didn't just deliver the Israelites from the hand of Pharaoh. He delivered them from the hand of Baal. This was war in the heavenlies. And I had to look at the Bible a couple of times to say, has this been in there the whole time? And he wasn't done yet. Because he takes them back to Sinai. And he says, okay, Moses, I've given you the law, but I want you to come back up the mountain because I got to tell you how to build the tabernacle, the tent. Like the one that El supposedly lives in. I got to give you the instructions. And in the book that I'm working on, we'll go into why the tabernacle was actually a reflection of the holy mountain Eden. This is taking me long enough. If I went into that, we'd be here another hour just on that alone. Exodus 24, or 19 rather. God tells them, Mount Hermon is supposed to be taboo? No, Sinai. Put a border around the mountain because whoever touches it shall be put to death. Sinai was truly holy and truly taboo. The Canaanites thought Mount Hermon was holy. No, Sinai. That was the mountain. And then God says, okay, come on back. I got to tell you how to build the tabernacle. But when you come back, Exodus 24, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, Aaron's sons, and 70 of the elders of Israel come up and worship from afar. Let's skip down to verse 9. Then Moses and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and 70 of the elders of Israel went up. They saw the God of Israel. There was under his feet, as it were, pavement of sapphire stone, like the very heaven for clearness, and he did not lay his hand on the chief men of the people of Israel. They beheld God and ate and drank. They beheld God and ate and drank. Do you get the significance of that? For the first time since Eden, humans were back on God's holy mountain and in his presence, in his divine counsel. How many elders of Israel? How many sons of God on Mount Hermon? How many? Oh, I ran out. How many's? Coincidence? No. This was a message to those B'nai Elohim that he placed over the nations, those 70 sons of God who were supposed to judge rightly and didn't. You will be replaced. You 70 have sinned, you will die like men. My people will come back to my mountain and take your place. Now, of course, Baal wasn't finished. If you can't beat him, lie to him. Of course, Moses was up on the mountain 40 days, getting the instructions on how to build a tabernacle, and the Israelites got a little antsy. Convinced Aaron to fashion a golden calf that they could worship. And if you read that passage, it's actually comical. Aaron says, I don't know what happened. I built a fire and this thing just kind of jumped out. It wasn't me. But guess which gods in the Canaanite pantheon, which of the Canaanite gods was usually represented by a bull or a calf? Any guesses? Baal and El, both. Coincidence? No. They weren't giving up that easy. One final thing, and then we'll leave this for tonight, and tomorrow we bring this all back to where our destiny lies on the holy mountain. This is just something, an odd bit. I do an interview program on the internet, and I've had occasion to interview a researcher, a scholar. He studies the occult. He is likely not a Christian, but his information is well researched. And he wrote a book a few years ago that I thought was really interesting. Remember, Baal, Set, was the god of northern Egypt, the god of the Canaanites or the Hyksos, who ruled there while the Israelites were there. The god of the people who enslaved the Israelites. Baal, who was the chief thorn in the side of the Israelites all the way until the days of Jesus. Set was also identified with the Greek god of chaos named Typhon. Now, Typhon was supposedly the baddest of the giants in Greek mythology. He was the son of Gaia, the earth, and Tartarus, hell. That's who Typhon was, the son of hell and earth. And that's who Set was identified with, who was also identified with Baal. This researcher who wrote this book, named Peter Levenda, wrote a book called The Dark Lord a few years ago, and he makes the case that Aleister Crowley, anyone hear of Aleister Crowley? He was the occultist in the 20th century who referred to himself as the wickedest man in the world. He was probably right. He was founder of a magical system that he called Telema. This came to him through his wife after they visited an Egyptian pyramid. And suddenly she was downloaded all of these rituals for this magical system that he called Telema. Well, his work was taken by a guy named Kenneth Grant, who modified it and called it the Typhonian tradition. Typhon, the god of chaos, the son of hell and earth. Levenda, in his book, argues that Crowley and the horror writer H.P. Lovecraft, anyone familiar with H.P. Lovecraft? He created a series of stories around a monster called Cthulhu. Cthulhu was identified in Lovecraft's writings as one of the great old ones, the old gods who once ruled the earth, but have since fallen into a death-like sleep, just awaiting for a time when the stars would align again to re-emerge. In Lovecraft's worldview, humanity was just sort of an irrelevancy, kind of here by luck, because the universe was cold, cruel, and vicious, and these great old ones would someday come back to destroy us all. Levenda believes that Crowley and Lovecraft were tapping into the same spiritual source, the same supernatural force. Some critics have said, now Lovecraft probably knew about Crowley, was just using him for inspiration to sell stories. Levenda checked, and doesn't appear that Lovecraft really even knew who Crowley was. But there are some really weird parallels between the rituals of Crowleyan occult magic and the stories written by H.P. Lovecraft. And if that is the case, then this octopus-headed thing here, which represents Lovecraft's vision of Cthulhu, the chief of his great old ones, may represent Set, the god of Crowley, the god identified with Set, the god identified with Baal, the god who tried to kill the Israelites to prevent the Messiah from coming. The god, if we stretch it all the way back, and again, I'm speculating here because we cannot know what these supernatural entities are telling us is true and how much is lie. But if we take it all the way back to ancient Sumer, perhaps the god of the abyss. That's our enemy. Don't know that that's what he looks like, but that's the concept. And I will say again, these entities who rebelled against God, if you call them gods, fallen angels, whatever you want to call them, they truly do hate us. They want to kill us. And they want to kill us because God has a plan for us that restores us to his family, to his council, on his holy mountain. We will talk about the next couple of mountains and then how the future may play out as we head back to Eden, as we head to Zion tomorrow night.